All right, so welcome to our April feature-based training here. We're going over donor management reporting and advanced search. I'm Mike Depew. I'm your head of head of client and partnership development at MonkeyPod. So just a couple of things that we're going to go through. I'm going to share my screen and we'll kind of walk through. Feel free to drop questions in the chat or ask me any questions. Feel free to interrupt. So first, I want to kind of go over first things for donor management, your donor retention report. That includes retained donors, re-engaged donors, and first-time donors. I'm going to click over to MonkeyPod here, and I'll get back to our main screen. And so we're all familiar with this when we log into MonkeyPod. This is kind of where you're looking right when you log in. If you go under your reports, you can see your donor retention report here. This is going to provide you a bunch of different metrics. We encourage everybody to always take a look at this. But you can see how these metrics are defined. So for retained donors, at least one donation, pledge, or grant between the period that you have selected and again between this other period. And you can change those periods just going with the date range up here. And so you can see that we've got for retained donors, re-engaged donors, and first-time donors, we can easily then come in and say maybe from January 1, 2021, and now we will be able to see your re-engaged donors has at least one donation, pledge, or grant before 2020, and again in 2021, but not since, right? So we can kind of see how those definitions will change. So we always encourage, take a look at this. You can see who's involved in your organization in terms of first-time donors. Reaching out to them is very important. A huge piece of course, retention is that second donation. So, you know, they donate once, really important, get them to come back for a second time, and there'll be a lot more involved and tied to your organization. The other tab here is your monthly donors. You can see a whole list of any of your recurring donors. You can sort by any status, active or ended. So you can see if you have recurring donors that have ended, and you can maybe reach back out to them if you want. But that is a nice quick way to be able to find those folks in a single report. Okay, the other additional donor management reports, your fundraising summary, your details, top donors and pledges receivable. If I come back to MonkeyPod here, you can go back to your reports and you can see your fundraising details report. This is again going to be, you can customize or filter this by date ranges. You can sort this by donations, pledges, and grants, and then also filtered by specific tags, right? So projects, events, fundraising, appeals, things like that. Hey folks, this is Mike coming in post-production. Just wanted to make a correction to the original recording. Your fundraising summary report, which is available here under reports. You'll see it here, fundraising summary. This is going to break down your gifts by the gift type, whether it's a donation, pledge, or grant. And then it's also going to sort that gift type by the CRM entity type, right? So whether your donor is an individual, an organization, a foundation, government, corporate, or other. So that's a quick look at your fundraising summary report. Back to the original video. Your top donors report is here under, again, reports, top donors. Here you can see for your top donors for whatever fiscal year. In this case, this is this fiscal year. We're going to show you last fiscal year and lifetime. If you click in, for example, the little bar chart here on somebody, you can see their donation history over time or their giving history over time. So just one more way that you can kind of get a time-based kind of review of this. You're going to, of course, download that report to Excel or download it as a PDF. And then the last one here that I want to show is your pledges receivable. If you're dealing with pledges or tracking pledges, any pledges that you log on the books are then going to show up here in your outstanding pledges or pledges receivable. We can see that in this case, you know, Katie has a pledge of $23,000, but she's got $20,000 still due. It's due in 8 months from now. I can then even come in to view or receive that payment, and I can see the original pledge when it was done, and add additional amounts if a donation comes in on that pledge. An important point to note for MonkeyPod is that when we handle pledges, if you go to record a new donation for this person, Katie, let's say we're going to record a donation, and we'll say under standard donation, and we can pull up Katie's name. MonkeyPod is automatically going to, actually, let me move my screen over a little bit. MonkeyPod's automatically going to flag this for you and saying you're trying to record a new donation. This person has an outstanding pledge on your books. Are you sure that this is a separate donation or is this part of the pledge? If you want to then make it part of the pledge, you can click back in. It'll go right back to the pledge's receivable report, and then you can view or receive that payment to add another payment on that pledge. And then, of course, you can see the individual, the pledge on the individual's record, the donor's record, by clicking into their profile in the CRM, coming down to your receivables and payables tab, and you'll be able to see your the pledge outstanding or the pledge receivable that is due here in their record as well. Okay, so that's a quick review of kind of the basic fundraising reports that are there. Definitely encourage you to check those out. The next thing that I want to get into is kind of the search functionality. That's going to fall under your relationships and then search relationships. So if we come back to MonkeyPod and we go to relationship, search relationships, you can search by a number of different criteria here. You can see we've got 519 different people in the database. We can search by role, or we can search by excluding different role. We can search by the type of entity, whether it's an individual, organization, government, etc. I can layer different searches on top of each other by doing things like donor, and then also searching by geography or donor and financial activity, anything like that. One new feature that we actually recently put out is this under financial activity that I want to highlight is this new monthly donor search. So now you can actively look here and search and say, give me all of my active monthly donors. And with one click, I can subscribe them to an email list, right? So you first have to have an email list created, but then you can subscribe them to that email list. Similarly, you can then search for, formerly a monthly donor or never a monthly donor, right? And be able to find it that way. Okay, I want to do two relatively easy searches, but these are kind of common ones that folks usually ask about. A LIBUNT and a SIBUNT search. These are to find your lapsed donors. LIBUNT just stands for somebody donated last year, but unfortunately not this year. SIBUNT is some year, but unfortunately not this year. To do that, you would come into, and actually let me start over with a new search here. We'd come into our financial activity. We would say somebody who's donated at least $1 last fiscal year, and also at most $0 this fiscal year. And now I have, let me slow down, at least $1 this fiscal year, at most $0 this fiscal year. If I scroll down now, I have 17 relationships, and I can subscribe them to an email list, or if I want, I can export this information to a CSV or Excel file without whatever data fields that I want to include. I could even record a bulk interaction or add them to a pipeline. So that is your LIBUNT search. If you're doing a SIBUNT search, that means somebody's donated at least some amount of money sometime in the past, so lifetime, but also at most $0 this fiscal year. And here we can see that we now have 135 relationships or individuals meet that criteria. We could further narrow that down and by say, just give me people with a role of donor. And now I see 128, right? And so you can kind of narrow your search criteria that way. Again, one click, be able to, and you can subscribe folks to an email list. Okay, so those are your kind of basic searches for LIBUNT and SIBUNT for your lapsed donors. More advanced searches, you can save searches, and then you can do also some cool things with dynamic custom attributes. So I'm going to show you what that looks like right now. So if you do a search like this, this LIBUNT search, or I'm sorry, this is a SIBUNT search, you can come down here and then you can just type it in and say, I'm going to save this as a SIBUNT search, right? And you can hit save. I've already done this. So what you can do is you can come back up. I'll clear out all of the search criteria, and you can just click into save searches. We'll say, give me any search, save search created by a user. And now I can drop down a menu here and see any search that somebody's done before. So I've got my LIBUNT and SIBUNT searches. You can also do things like, donated but has never purchased a subscription, or donated but has never attended an event, or never purchased, something, right? So you can do a lot of those different criteria. The nice thing about save searches is that they are, when you come back in, you don't have to go through and plug in all the search criteria. You can just pull this up. So if you're doing, similar searches throughout the year, you can always come back to that. If, however, you want one of these searches to be running in the background constantly and to flag people in their records, what you can do is actually save the search, and then we can create a dynamic custom attribute. And what that's going to do is that search is going to be running constantly in the background. Anybody then that meets that criteria, MonkeyPod is going to apply a custom attribute that says, hey, these folks meet this criteria. Okay, so let's do this with the Fundraising report. We can create a dynamic custom attribute. That attribute has now been created. So now if I scroll down, I can see, we're just going to pull up somebody's names. We'll go with Angela. Here, we'll come back to her in a second. But one thing that I need to do is I need to apply that custom attribute to an attribute set, right? So we've created a custom attribute, but it has to be attached to a tab so it can show up somewhere in the record. To do that, we're going to go to our relationships. We're going to go to our custom attributes. And now we can see this whole list of custom attributes here. And we can see down at the bottom, here's all the ones highlighted in green. These are the dynamic custom attributes that are made from searches. All right, so I have my LiveUnt search. It's going to be as a true, false. Any of those dynamic custom attributes are saved as true, false. Do they meet the criteria? Yes or no? Right, so we can, and MonkeyPod is going to auto assign that. We need to take that custom attribute and attach it to a set. To do that, we scroll back up and go to your role-based attribute sets. And you can see we've got a couple of different tabs that we've created here for different roles. And let's we'll attach it to a new attribute set. We'll call it donation history or something like this. And we'll attach that to any of our donors. And we can click in, here's the included attributes that are available. I can click in the LiveUnt. So I'm creating a tab called donation history. I'm going to attach that tab to anybody that has the role of donor. And then on that tab, these are the custom attributes that I want to show up. If I click save, now that is created that tab, attached it to the role of donor. Let's go back and we'll look at Angela. I can search her name. And I can now pull up Angela. And if I scroll down, I can see she's a donor, she's a customer and subscriber. If I scroll down here, she now has the tab of donation history. And I can see that she is meeting the criteria of LiveUnt, meaning she gave last year, but she has not given this year. So the nice thing that, about these kind of saved searches and custom attribute or dynamic custom attributes are if you're intentionally going into the search field and looking for that information, you'll be able to find it that way and you'll be able to pull up the whole list and add people maybe to an email list. However, if I'm just kind of updating an interaction or, looking at a history of transactions for Angela and I'm in her record, maybe updating other information, this is a nice way to be able to stumble upon that information that says, oh, hi, hey, she has not donated this year. She's matching that LiveUnt criteria. Similarly, she could have something like, has donated this year, but has not purchased tickets to our annual gala. That means, okay, it's time to send her a quick little individual message, follow-up or phone call and say, hey, would you like to purchase tickets? So yeah, that's dynamic custom attributes. Let me go back to our slides here. They're running always around in the background here. They need to be assigned to a role-based attribute set. The other item that I want to highlight is using merge tags for donor management. This is in terms of email campaigns. I'm going to scroll back over to, or come back into MonkeyPod. If you go into your, under email marketing, under relationships, I can come into campaigns and we'll pull up our progress update to all our financial supporters. We can click in, we can see the name of the campaign, the subject line, but I'll click over to content. And here's where you might be wanting to personalize an email in the sense of including some donation history about them in the email, right? And this is actually a new feature that we recently released. And so you can see here, we might have our intro paragraph that's going to be generic to everyone. What this line right here is now we want to personalize to the donor with some piece of information from MonkeyPod. You can use a tool called merge tags. Merge tags are just a code that we have kind of created in MonkeyPod that's going to pull a specific data point into the email. And it's going to change that data point for every single person based on their record. So in this case, I might want to say, thanks to your gifts of X amount of dollars this year, we're nearing our goal. To put in this merge tag, donations.this_fiscal year, all I did is I came to this menu right here, merge tags, and you can see all of the different available merge tags. So if I wanted to put in somebody's first name, I could do that, dear, and then I could put in the subscriber's first name. But you can see I can put in lifetime donations here. I can also put in total donations last year, total donations this fiscal year. And so it's very easy to say if we wanted to delete this out, and let's put in for last year, I could then insert the merge tag for last fiscal year. And now I have, thanks to your gifts of X amount of dollars last year, we're nearing our goal, right? And it's going to pull that for every single person on that email list. So those are merge tags. You can use merge tags in the body of emails. You can also use merge tags in the subject lines of your email, although usually that's for like personalizing with first names or first and last names. Usually for donation amounts and things like that for donor management, that's going to be in the body of your email. We do have a great knowledge base article here about merge tags, and so you can kind of see how to add them, right? So this is a screenshot for if you were adding the first name to a subject line, what it's going to look like instead of just help us take action against plastic pollution. You can add in the merge tag subscriber.firstname, and it'll show up as Trisha, help us take action against plastic pollution, right? If it goes to Trisha. So you can do things like that. Usually email open rates will kind of inch up a little bit or nudge up when you're including personalization. So we always recommend try kind of some A/B testing. Run a campaign without merge tags, without personalization, run one with it, and see kind of what happens. They're right there. If you ever need to copy and paste them in, we provide a whole list. So you have your kind of personalization email merge tags. Here's all the donation ones that you can pull in. Here's anything around campaigns. As we build out more, they'll be listed here, so you can always come back to this article, and it's available right here in your knowledge base. So